Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Reddit Rundown, where Paulo and I will go through common Reddit rants, I guess, or questions and answer them from both a VA and the client perspective. Today, we are looking at this question from a newbie to the community. And this person is dealing with a dilemma that I feel like a lot of us, especially the writers, are dealing with right now. Sabi niya, ang hirap maging freelance copywriter ngayon dahil sa ChatGPT. Attached to this post is like a screenshot. I'm assuming someone sent him that question or part siya ng application process. The question is, how is it different than ChatGPT? Clearly, all the topics and example blog posts were generated with GPT. Just trying to understand what we'd be paying for and what the outcomes are. Sabi niya, this person's a freelance copywriter. They're looking for direct clients, pero I feel so lost. Kung saan-saan na ako naghahanap. Sa online jobs, puro agencies na. LinkedIn, pass. Sa Upwork because of connects, pero 2 months na wala pa din. This person has a portfolio and they said optimize yung profile niya. And dagdag pa yung content na kaya naman gawin daw ng AI kapag nag-offer ka ng services mo sa kanila. Any advice? This seems to be a popular post. It has 375 upvotes from the community in the past 2 days and 62 comments. So before we delve any deeper, Paulo, off the bat, what's your take on AI replacing copywriting jobs in the industry?
Well, specifically copywriting jobs. AI is here to stay. That's part one. AI is here to stay. It's at the very infancy stages of its creation. And it's not a fad that's going to disappear in 2 years. It's not something that's going to be, irrelevant. It's going to change. It's going to grow. It may not be the exact same thing as it is today. But copywriters and other writers out there, it's it's gonna cause issues for you guys if you think you're gonna do exactly what you're gonna do and say no 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 AI can't replace what I do. To some extent, it has and it will, right? To
Mm-hmm.
some extent, as of today, where we are in the development of
Mm-hmm.
AI systems and these other large language models systems, today it is already replacing portions of your job. And as you could probably see with this post, it's replacing complete jobs for other people. I think it's foolish to say that, hey, you know what, nothing to worry about here, guys. It'll go away in a couple years. It's definitely not going anywhere.
Yeah, that's a hard pill to swallow. Actually, before we dive into the comments on this thread, I kind of wanted to share a bit of my thoughts since I'm also like a writer. It was a degree program I took in college. So I think we've always had writers, but of course, with the advent of the internet, people evolved into being SEO copywriters and like email marketing. And I think the role just continues evolving, but the main skill will always be like writing. Back when ChatGPT came out for the first time, everyone was like, nope, I'm not even going to touch it. And now, not using ChatGPT or any kind of AI at all makes it very difficult to employ you in the VA industry, at least. I know there are some industries that are like publishing companies that don't want you to touch AI at all. Your portfolio has to be purely written and brainstormed all by yourself. But I think in the freelance industry, like having AI skills is a must,
Yeah.
especially to stay relevant.
Just real fast, just understand.
Okay.
Upskill. I know what it means now. Is that only a Filipino Tagalog thing? Because I understand it's in English, but it's not anything I've ever heard here in America anyone say, use the word upskill.
Really? I mean, like
No.
we say it all the time. It's like, let's upskill. You have to learn something new, but
Yeah.
we need to upskill all the time.
It's probably a word in English. I'm sure it is. But it's more of a, we need to train. We need to get an education. We need to educate ourselves. We need to, learn something else. I just random thought. I just never even heard that outside of the Philippines. That like a natural. Oh, we need to upskill today, kind of thing. Just very unexpected phrase. So sorry, that was a random cutoff. But go ahead.
Yeah, there are definitely some words that are dead giveaways that this person speaks English but not in America.
Right.
So the next person says, ad services OP, upskill malala talaga. And then they list stuff like SEO management, AI prompt engineer, VSL scriptwriter, copywriter, email marketing.
Right, and all of that. I mean, even this stuff, newsletter writer, email marketing, copy. That's all just the same thing. That's just different kinds of writing. Um, all of which can be done with AI to some extent, right? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have an easy answer here because it really is a question of, you know, are you going to continue pursuing content writing? Because I think from the client side of things, not every client, and Melissa, I'm one of these clients. Well, not every client needs everything to be perfection, right? Especially when it comes to content, comes to blogs, comes to social media posts, things like that. Sometimes we're okay with 75, 85% of the way there. Does it get the job done? Especially when all your competitors are doing the exact same thing, and all we have to do is produce something a hair better, and maybe that requires a bit of human intervention, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
There's another great comment here that I like that's in line with that thought. Understanding what the client wants. There's one person that said, ask your client, why, if AI can do the job, why are you hiring a writer right now? What are you looking for?
yeah, good question.
So
Well,
that's a very clever way.
same question here, right? Same question. How many times have you said, if you can do it yourself, why are you hiring me? Right? How many times has that happened before? Right? When people,
Mm-hmm.
when VAs are talking to their clients and say, well, if you could do it, then why do you need me for? Right? Well, okay, are you telling me to not hire you? Right? Is that what, do you not want a client? But at the same time, from a client side of things, sometimes, many times, my time is more valuable doing other things, and that's why we need assistance from you guys to do the things that we, not saying not want to do, but is something that we need to get off of our time in order to do something else, right? So we need that assistance. Um, so this VA may be asking the client, right? If you're going to use ChatGPT, then why do you need me? Well, maybe we want you to do ChatGPT. We want you to do the editing, do the posting, and everything else. You know, are you just going to do copywriting straight out? Are you just going to do writing? Are you just going to do content writing? Are you going to do anything with it? Do you do the distribution? Do you do all that kind of stuff? And maybe he does. I mean, but almost all of our Reddit rants goes back to communications, right? How many of them are going to ask their client that question, right? How many of them are going to actually
Mm-hmm.
ask that? I think more reasonable of a question is if you're hiring me, are you hiring me for a project, part-time, 3 month, 6 week project, whatever it ends up being, or are you hiring me for a full-time position? And how long do you realistically think that this full-time position will last, considering all these other variables that you're talking about, including AI and everything else?
Mm. Okay. Yeah. Just to chime in a bit before. Oh, I also, before I ask you this next question, there's another comment here that says, your prior knowledge as a copywriter would help you a lot in giving ChatGPT the proper directions to generate content, while also catching any necessary changes to keep everything aligned. So the human touch, like maybe the client would need you to generate ChatGPT content, but also have this human touch of
Yeah.
understanding their thought process. So I guess what advice you would give to people who want to be like a VA specialized in writing as a client?
I mean, if the client is comfortable with using ChatGPT, and I do think a lot more clients are getting to the point where they understand that it's part of, at the very least, part of a tool set that writers
Mm-hmm.
have, right? And I think more and more buying into it. You know, ChatGPT and other LLMs, large language models, these types of software and generative AI systems, um, they feed off how they're directed. I can give one prompt that says, write me a story about two people talking on a podcast, or I could say, write me a story about two people talking on a podcast about Reddit rants on, right? And things like that. And
Mm-hmm.
and the more detailed you get into it, the more you can get to it, the more you can get out of it. Um, but I also believe that on the other side of it is, if you're working for a client that has a very specific idea of what kind of messaging he wants to get out of these content driven things from ChatGPT or from you, the writer, being able to ask the right questions initially is as important as being able to then put the prompt in, right?
Mm-hmm.
From
Yeah.
a, I guess Melissa, you know this better. Is it from a journalistic standpoint? Even as a writer, you may not be a journalist, but you kind of have to get the right details from your client in order to be
Mm-hmm.
able to produce what he wants.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to ask, maybe your client just needs that he needs you to bounce around thoughts and ideas with him to get that message out properly the way he wants it. So there's a lot of things you could still do, but brace yourself that you may not be writing 90% of the stuff anymore. But it's not
You're going to be
necessarily a bad
editing.
thing.
You're going to be like tweaking it,
Right.
and you're going to be churning out a lot more content than you expect you'd
Right.
write normally without ChatGPT.
And I do think, and people are going to hate me for this, especially my writer friends, is you will lose a certain amount of work if all you want to do is hardcore writing for content strategies and other websites and things like that. If that's your only goal, and you're only going to stick to traditional hardcore writing blogs and writing content, and it's going to take you 2 or 3 days to write specific blogs or whatever X number of words, and ChatGPT is churning out 1,000 times more than you are, you're going to lose work. You have to find a way to work within that world at this point.
So what do you think of like adding AI prompt engineering and machine learning to a list of skills?
Well, first of all, machine learning is completely different. Let's just move that out of the way first. Machine learning and AI prompt engineering are two very different things.
Okay, so background, Paulo comes from like the tech field, so he can actually speak about this. So kindly like explain how is machine learning different?
I mean, all right. So if you want to talk about machine learning, technically today, artificial intelligence does not actually exist, right? Right. Technically today, artificial intelligence does not really exist. There's no actual artificial intelligent life today. What we're really talking about is stacks and stacks of massive amounts of data sets that the machine can be taught to learn how to read and predict what will come next. That's how a lot of these large language generators work, is they predict what you're going to say next based on massive databases of what was said before, right? And that's machine learning. Now, maybe the only reason I'm saying don't include that in this conversation is because that's a database programming developer side of things.
Okay, right.
So
it's not as easy to learn. Like you can't just pick it up like as easy as SEO.
I'm sure some writers can, I guess. But for me, it's like, hey, you could do SEO and you could do content writing. That's cool. Here's a piano. Go play Beethoven. It doesn't make sense, right? It's just two very different skill sets. So.
Okay.
Yeah. But back to your question though about like machine learning. And are we asking if the content here can then just upskill to do SEO management? Right. The real question is, do you still want to be a writer? Right? Because SEO is not writing. If you're here to write and be creative and create blogs and write articles and write stories and journalistic stuff, whatever else, and suddenly you're managing which keywords will pop up and how to phrase them and which meta tags to put into certain web pages, it's not writing. I mean, it's a career change.
It doesn't give you the freedom that creative writing does. You have to consider all of these things that might actually ruin the thing that you're trying to write.
Right, and its question is that what you want to do? Are you is this person looking at this from a conversation of I can't find a job, or I can't find a creative outlet that I thought I was going to be doing as a writer?
Oh, that's a very good question. I think every person trying to make their way as a writer in the freelance industry should ask this question. Like, what kind of writer you want to be, and how much of that original skill set do you want to keep as your main job, right?
I mean, do you think an SEO manager is a writer?
No, they're more on strategizing. It's kind of like being in marketing.
Right. And at the same time, do you think somebody who's editing stuff that ChatGPT put together, are they still writing?
Oh, I think in the context of this Reddit thread in particular, they're looking for skills that a human writer can do, or someone with experience in writing or journalism could bring to the table that ChatGPT can't.
Right.
In this case, while editing the content that ChatGPT puts out there is not exactly writing, it does require a level of experience as a writer to read what an article by ChatGPT and they say, hey, you know what, this paragraph does not make sense. It sounds nice, but it does not make sense, or like the facts are wrong, or they completely summarize this wrong and miss the point.
right?
So that's an important skill
I
set.
mean, there's certain things that ChatGPT is not going to get right, and I'm going to say this clearly: not going to get right yet, right? Not going to get right. It's getting smarter. It's getting better. The things that not just ChatGPT, but all of these different AI systems, they're getting better and better, and they're going to get better, like exponentially faster, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, One of the things that I think people forget is it's going to make mistakes as it learns. Just like a baby, walking for the first time, it's going to stumble, it's going to fall. It's only as good as the sources it's pulling from. So a lot of times it's pulling from sources that are unknown.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't this is not so different as when the internet first started out. Unfortunately, I am old enough to remember the birth of when this internet world started and the misinformation that was there even back then.
Mm-hmm.
But it was on the internet, it must be true, right? And how
Mm-hmm.
many times can we look for the same fact online and it's factual in 10 different places, but it says 10 different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
From 10 very reliable sources. It must be right. And they all can't be right. So 9 of them have to be wrong at least, right? Um, you know, I would look at this from if you're going to become I don't know what to call it, a chat GPT content editor, I guess, right? How
Mm-hmm.
will is your human touch going to be the one to fact check it? Is your human
Mm-hmm.
touch going to be the one to correct it or restructure it to become a more conversational versus
Mm-hmm.
what it outputs? Or are you going to be the one to train it to talk like the client, right? To talk like the business that it's supposed to be representing,
Yes, because you can also train ChatGPT to write a
right?
certain way, right? Like with a
Right. So I
certain
mean,
tone. Like,
right.
mm-hmm.
And to me, but I guess but the question comes back to at that point, are you still a writer? And is that what you want to be doing? Do you want to be instructing in computer system and AI system to be doing this, or is your goal to be a writer? And if your goal is to be a writer, and you don't think this is right, this is writing, going down any path in this direction might not be for you.
Oh, that's very honest advice and something people should contemplate. There's another comment I'm seeing here, which I find also very interesting. You need to use critical thinking skills on what to keep, what to reject, and what to fine tune. And it's not as easy to tell ChatGPT write a 500-word essay on this or that. You actually have to creatively create the right prompts, right? Like ask the right questions, not just to ChatGPT, but also to your client to
Yes,
understand the thought process. What are they trying to say, right?
and that's a big
So.
one, right? But see,
Mhm.
what you just said in the second half of that statement was like dead on, right? Like, are you being hired to represent the voice of the company or client that you're representing,
Mhm.
right? If that's the case, you need to be as good as asking the questions to your client to become the voice as you are
Okay.
to reprompting it into ChatGPT. And to me, that is a skill. Again, though, is that writing? Like, is that
Mhm.
is that removing creativity? Now you have the journalistic part of it, but is it content writing? I don't know. That's for you guys to in the field to decide whether or not you still think it's within what you wanted to do, or it's eating your soul away from the inside. It's a hard answer for me to give, except for you're going to have to make that choice on your own of what you want out of it.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely there is the challenge of copywriters to convince clients or actually to emphasize what their human touch brings to the table
Right.
that ChatGPT can't. Right.
Right.
I think as a writer, when ChatGPT first came out, I was also kind of intimidated in a sense of, oh, they can create like 10 different summaries in 10 different ways that I can't do this as fast. I can't do this as creatively. Like ChatGPT, for example, is fantastic in coming up with captions or creative titles or all those creative things that you just can't do on the spot as quickly. But at the same time, you read content from ChatGPT and it's like, yeah, no, this all sounds the same. If you read enough of ChatGPT content, you kind of recognize the patterns it falls into and like, yeah, no, I'm still a writer. I can still do this.
But
So.
I'll agree with you with a preface that for now, right? For now, you can
Mhm.
identify these things. And ChatGPT is not the only game in town. And I'll put up a ChatGPT article against a Gemini article against a Siri intelligence article, and they all read very differently
Oh, that's something I haven't tried.
already.
That's a good
Yeah, that's
point.
the thing.
Okay.
Like you put it up against Copilot and everything else. These writing tools are getting better and better, and it all goes from what conversations you've had, what threads you have within those systems in the past. What have you trained it in? Where is it pulling data from? And also, like the developers of the original systems, do they want it to be more conversational? Do they want it to be more serious? Do they want it to be more rigid? There's so many variables coming in, and I'm agreeing with you that if you look at 10 chat GPT articles about the same topic, about different topics, they have a certain structure and a certain way about it. And yeah, you're going to say I could write better than this. All I'm saying is all of that comes with the preface of for now. For now, I do
Okay.
believe there's a for now instance that a lot of things that we're doing on the creative stuff, the SEO stuff, the marketing stuff, for now there is a certain divided between the human touch and what the AI system is generating. I just believe that gap is shrinking fast.
Okay.
So yeah.
So there's this need to, that word again, continuously upskill and stay updated, and notice like not just think about ChatGPT, but also the other AI
Yeah.
that's free to use out there, and compare and just stay in the game, I guess.
And upskill to what extent, right? Upskill to do what? I guess that's what this person's really asking. I don't have an answer. Like if you're basically saying to upskill to no longer become a writer, right? If you're saying if some of the posts are saying I want to upskill to SEO, I want to upskill to become a AI prompter, not all of this is saying you're upskilling to take on a new career, which is totally fine, by the way, totally fine. But if you want to be a writer, I'm not sure that just saying I'm going to upskill to do something else is writing anymore.
Okay. Well, I'm kind of afraid to ask this question, but do you think there will still be a need for actual pen and paper writers at some point? Do you think there will be value in having content that AI has not touched or hasn't been generated? Just like
I think this is where some clients and some companies and some individuals will find the hardcore need for that. For everything they do, they will never ever touch AI or touch these things in the world because they need that human touch. They need to know that somebody did all the work from start to finish. I personally, and this part about me, is even today with where these chat GPTs and other writing systems are today, I'm okay putting out content even without editing it at 70% accurate, 85% of the way there. I'm totally okay with it. And I think there's a lot more companies and clients closer to me than there are in the other direction saying we have to have hardcore writers. And the better these systems get, and the more their competitors are using it to get content out at a much faster rate than they are, it's really going to be very difficult for these hardcore pen and paper writers to be the only game in town and say, hey, here's what I have that you have to hire me. Right? Because even if ChatGPT is 85%, 90% of the way there, I would rather hire an editor for 1/8 of their time to clean up what these systems are creating for me than to have to hire somebody to produce one blog or one article that's going to take them days and days to write and edit and go back and forth on, which I could have had 80%, 90% of the way there in 15 seconds. It's a really hard sell to get me there. And I think there's more people coming into my side of the equation as these systems get better and better and more advanced.
well, I guess that's it for discussing the contents of this thread. I do agree with you. We're on the same page in a sense that if you want to be a writer in the VA industry, looking into the use of ChatGPT and other AI is something that you there's no escape from that. Like it's something you have to learn. So good luck to us writers then.
It's a whole new world. It's a whole new world. Listen, there's going to be a lot of conversations like this coming up. It's been another episode of the Reddit Rundown. I'm sure we'll have a lot more coming up. So thanks, Melissa. We'll talk soon.
Talk soon. Bye.